Today's meeting, as we said, we're going to have, first of all, good afternoon, everybody, and good morning, Winty. Today we'll have a meeting with 3 talks on very important topics, sepsis, maintenance, and equipment issues related to the Diamedica, given by Dr. Yankele Evensur, and then a talk given by myself regarding delivery room communication and transport. I hope that we'll have time for all the talks. If not, we'll again do some adjustments as needed. The next meeting, which will be on the 19th of February, will be a case presentation or 2 cases by the 2 hospitals. I would like to have the presentation sent to me a few days before the presentation, so we can take a look to the important topics that we might want to be prepared for discussion. The meeting will be on the 19th, the same time, and then you will be sent out the post test of this workshop, probably the day of the last meeting or the following Sunday. And we expect that all the participants will send back the post test by the 25th of March, which gives a few days to complete. Remember that there is no marks. We do not have any interest in giving any mark. The only thing that we need is to learn about the effectiveness of this workshop, and we need all the forms to be sent in and sent to us. And this will be giving you eligibility for the certificate. So we ask you to spend an hour or so on the test itself and fill it and send it to Benil and Winty or myself by mail. As you did for the pre-test, we have about 41 pre-tests, and it will be very interesting to see whether this platform is of any use of learning. On the 28th of March, the ambassador of Israel will come to Kumasi, and I already connected between Rita and Ashura so they can prepare the ceremony for distribution of the certificates, and it will be a live meeting between yourselves. So it's going to be organized by the local people and the ambassador. And as I remind you, the eligibility of the certificate is the full attendance of the workshop and the 2 pre and post tests that we asked you to fill in. So I could see that it was a lot of participants on each meetings, and I'm sure it's going to teach us whether it's okay to do such kind of teaching modalities. We hope that after the finish of this workshop, we will continue monthly meetings directly with each of the unit for case presentation and direct discussions on real problems raising in the unit. We will discuss how we will do it on a 1-hour meeting, no more, and then we can do kind of working rounds on a regular basis. So now we have 23 participants online, and I know that on at each point there is more than 1 person. So I think if there is no question on these issues, we can start. And we will ask Yankele to start. It's okay with you, Winty? Yankele will start, you will go on, and then I will be the last. Okay, so Jakob, is there any question on anything that I said until now? It's okay now to ask. Meanwhile, you can share your screen, Jakob.
Okay.
You remember Yankele is he's a pediatrician worked with us in Soroka, and he visited Kumasi with us in 19, I think, 2019.
2019.
And now he joins us to remind us about technical and cleaning issues regarding the Diamedica for the new nurses and the old nurses and all the physicians who have to be familiar with the equipment that we are using. So go ahead, Yankele.
Okay. Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, sure.
Okay, great. So good evening, everybody. As Dr. Agi said, gonna speak a bit about the Diamedica CPAP machine, mainly about the equipment itself. Oh, yeah? Okay, so what do we need this machine for? We need to provide positive pressure ventilation and oxygen to dyspneic and hypoxemic babies that we have in the unit. We're gonna speak about the parts, assembly, applying it to a new patient, the maintenance and cleaning, some troubleshooting, and we would like to hear about challenges that you face in the units themselves, like in the daily use. Okay, first the parts. This is like a diagram of the parts of the machine. First, we have the oxygen generator and the flow source. The inspiratory limb that travels the air and the oxygen to the patient. The ram cannula or the Hudson prawns that the patient itself is using, the exhalation limb, and the expiratory limb, which generates the pressure, the CPAP. Okay, first speak a few words about the oxygen generator. This is the big one of the big advantages of the Diamedica bubble CPAP, that it can generate its own oxygen using room air. How does it do it? There is a inspiratory flow. It connects it accumulates the ambient air, compresses it, humidifies it, warms it, and at the end it provides around up to 95% of oxygen it can provide to the patient. It is a big advantage because we don't need to use all the oxygen tanks, which are consumable, high cost, and this machine can do it by itself. An important note about positioning the machine so that the oxygen generator can work properly is not to put it straight adjacent to the wall. It needs to be at least 30 centimeters away from the wall, and also in a ventilated room, so it can generate the air can go inside this filter properly, and the oxygen can be generated. We move on to the inspiratory limb. It has a few parts. First, this, if you can see it, this is the outflow tract of the oxygen generator. The humidifier bottle is connected, is screwed on. First, before we screw it on, we need to open the humidifier bottle and fill it with distilled water or boiled water that have been cooled up to the level that is indicated. We have a connector from the humidifier bottle, and some of the machines have this device that helps collect excess water that are generated in the tubes because of the work of breathing and the humidity that is accumulated there. But this is not an obligatory part. And the tube, the inspiratory tube, which is exactly similar to the expiratory tube, but this one is yeah.
Can you stop for a second? I can have a message here saying Gifty saying that she's not hearing. Did you manage to fix your computer? Because we hear very well.
Can you hear me, Gifty?
Sometimes you need to press on the microphone and make like a test kind of thing on the Zoom, and then you can hear. Okay. No, Elon says we can hear, so.
Yeah, we can all hear. I think maybe Gifty has a problem, so maybe he should leave
so
and
Gifty,
rejoin.
Okay, remember that all the lecture is recorded, so she will be able to hear it again. I hope she fixes her device. Okay, Ankela, sorry, go on.
Okay. An important point regarding this tube, the inspiratory tube, and the same goes to the expiratory tube, is when we connect it, we don't want it to be wrapped like this. And we have to make sure that the tube is straight and there is no kinks and it's not tied, because this can be later a problem with delivering the air to the patient. The next part is the part where we decide how much oxygen we give to the patient. We have two gauges, one of air and one of oxygen. And we use this mixing chart, which you have glued to the machine. You don't need to remember anything by heart, except for the fact that when we combine both of these gauges, we need to reach 10 liters per minute. We start every patient with 5 liters of oxygen and 5 liters per minute of air. This brings us approximately, I will maybe show it on this. So we go 5 liters per minute of air and 5 liters per minute of oxygen. When we meet, we get a little less than 60% of oxygen, and this is how we start. If, for example, we have a patient that is still hypoxemic, using these starting parameters, we want to increase the oxygen flow and decrease the airflow accordingly, and so that we still maintain 10 liters per minute. So, for example, if we want to increase this, we started with 5 liters of oxygen per minute, but he is not improving. We go to 7, and then we add 3 liters per minute of air. We reach 72% of oxygen, and we need to check to see if the patient is improving or not. But what is the important thing is always, when you combine these two gauges, you need to reach 10 liters per minute of flow. Is it clear? I think this is an important part. Okay, if there's questions, then just ask. We go on to the expiratory limb. It is we have the expiratory tube, which is connected to the CPAP bottle. This is where you where you connect it to the Diamedica machine on the side. And the pressure of the CPAP is determined by the depth of the tube inside that is immersed into the water. We use the water pressure to produce the positive pressure. I mean, even the starting point with this CPAP is 5 centimeters of water, even though it's on 6 here. We start every baby on 5 centimeters of water. And if it is not improving, then probably we'll have another lesson that will explain how to, when do we increase the pressure. But these are this indicates the pressure that is provided, the positive pressure that the baby will receive. I forgot to say that you need to fill it, of course, with the distilled water as well. We got to the parts that are connected to the patient, either the RAM cannule or the Hudson prawns. It's important that we choose the right cannule or prawn, the right prawn size. Too large prawns will cause trauma to the mucosa and the septum, and small prawns will cause pressure leak and the baby will not receive enough CPAP. So the work of the machine won't be as efficient as it could be. After we connected all these parts and we checked that the machine is 30 centimeters away from the wall, we have water in all the tanks, the humidifier and the CPAP tank, and the tubes are connected and they have no kinks. And we turn the power on, and then we have to wait until the annoying noise will come off and the yellow light will turn off. It happens when the machine, the oxygen generator, reaches oxygen concentration of around 85%. That's when we can start using it. If it takes too long, maybe we need to check that if something is obstructing the inflow to the machine, or the room is not ventilated enough. I remember we had this problem in Kumasi, and when we first in Kumasi South, when we first installed them, because the room was not ventilated enough until there were air conditions, the machine couldn't reach the oxygen concentration because there was not enough air in the room. Okay, after we turn the machine on and before we connect it to the patient, we need to check the machine is working properly, and that we that we connect it to the patient and it will help it and not interfere with his or her work of breathing. How do we do that? We need to check for bubbles. We take we look at all the tubes. We occlude the prawns with our hand and check for bubbles. Where do we check for bubbles? The bubbles will indicate that we have enough flow and enough pressure. We check for the bubbles in the CPAP tank and the humidifier bottle. If there are no bubbles, we need to check if the prawns are okay, if there's no kink or if it's not torn. Same goes for the tubes. And if everything is connected properly, you can try and increase the flow and see if it's working. I think we can, and another important point before we connect the the prawns to the patient is check that there is no excess water inside the tubes, because if we cleaned the tubes and we didn't dry them properly, some water can be still left in the tubes. And if we connect the baby to the prawns, the water can flow into his nose and obstruct it and can interfere with his airway. And now we want to apply the CPAP to the patient. After we check that everything is working properly, we want to try and see if it can help his condition, work of breathing and his situation. So we need to position him properly, elevate his shoulders, and ensure that there is clear airway. Looking into his nostrils and see if there's any secretions, and then if there are, provide suction so there can be clear airflow from the prawns to his nose. Sorry. And if we connected the baby to the CPAP, and we see that after a few minutes, the baby is not improving, or worse, deteriorating, we have to check for a few things. First of all, we look into his at the patient, and we look at the prawns. Are the prawns seated properly? Sorry?
Okay, go on.
Are they connected properly? Is it well placed into his nostrils? Are there secretions, as I just said? We go on to the tubes to see if there's no kinks or any kinks, or if it's tight or something. The same goes for the tubes to the CPAP machine, to the CPAP bottle, or the one goes from the machine to the prawns. We look at the CPAP bottle to see if we provided enough pressure, so at least 5 centimeters of water. And we check the flow gauges to see that there is enough flow. As we said, combined should be 10 liters per minute, and that there are bubbles in the humidifier tank and also on the CPAP tank. And another thing, of course, we need to check if there is any problem with the electricity, because there is sometimes some problems with the surge in the units. That's why every machine should be connected to should use the surge protector. And if there is any problem with the electricity, we can check the surge protector for the indication. An important point regarding the electricity, if the power is off, this is an emergency, because we connected the baby to the machine. We occluded his nasal, like the airway, but the machine is not working because there is no power. So we have two options: either connect the RAM cannula directly to the oxygen container that should be in the room, or take the prawns away from his nose. But we cannot leave a baby connected to an unfunctioning machine, because it will disturb his work of breathing and not assist him. And any questions before we go into cleaning?
There is one question on the chat about the initiation of CPAP if we start every baby with 5 centimeters of water.
This is what we spoke on. Okay.
Okay, but this is a question, and it's a relevant question because we do say that term babies can go up to 8 centimeters of water, but we should start with the lowest pressure that can help the babies. So starting with 5 is a good startup, and this is what we should start with all the babies. We should be very careful with premature babies not to go over 6. We can go in term babies even at higher pressures. And we talked already about the complications of CPAP, and I think that Agi will talk about it again. Am I right, Agi? I don't know if she hears us. Okay.
She hears, but
I do hear you. My microphone was closed. I want to share my screen for a second. Can I do it? No, because Yankele, I will, at the end of your talk, I will remind you about the algorithm that we refer to when we put the baby on the CPAP. And the beginning, it's okay to be 5, but you actually stand by the baby and watch carefully until you reach the necessary oxygen saturation and the comfort of the baby as his chest is moving. So because the CPAP has complications and we don't want to get a pneumothorax, we start for 5, but we can increase in 30 minutes or 1 hour, we can increase to 6 and 7 and 8 slowly until we reach the point that the baby is saturating well and is comfortable. You remember the first lecture of Eilon showing us that a CPAP gives recruitment of the oxygen alveoli. And especially in preterm babies, we need a higher pressure sometimes to open up the alveoli. And then we can see that the baby is comfortable when his lungs are open. So a good start with 5. Yes, you can increase to higher pressures according to the need of the baby. There are no more questions on the chat. I encourage that you write us questions. It's good that we know what you really want to understand or make sure that you master this very well.
I think Alberta has a question. She raised her hand.
Alberta, yes.
Hello, good evening. Please, I
Good
have
evening.
2 questions. The first one is when you receive a baby, sometimes the baby may be on intranasal oxygen and the saturation is poor. So after you've done your distress call, you would want to put the baby on CPAP. But looking at the lower saturation, sometimes I'm tempted to start the CPAP at a higher FiO2 because I want to correct hypoxia aggressively, so that when I have a good saturation, then I begin to wean down to a lower FiO2. I want to ask if I'm doing the right thing. And then the second question is, sometimes we use improvised CPAP, and looking at the PEEP bottle, whenever you turn it, it's like the deeper the bottom that thing goes into the water, the higher the pressure. So when we are doing the bottle, the improvised CPAP, and we have to attach a plaster, we have to label a plaster from 0 to 9 centimeters and attach to the bottle. Sometimes there is a confusion as to whether the numbers are supposed to go in the ascending order or the descending order. Whether we have to put the plaster from 0 to 9 from the bottom, or it has to like be the other way around. I don't know if you understand, but
I
those are my
understood the
questions.
second question, and I will try to answer
Okay.
it. The level of CPAP is from the surface of the water to the bottom, to the tip of the tube, okay? Not from the bottom of the bottle, okay? So, and it is a problem with the CPAP because you have water that evaporates. So you have to keep measuring, put a measuring tape and be sure that the CPAP is not getting lower because the water evaporates, but you have also to be very careful with the tube that it will not go deeper without you knowing about it. So if you have the CPAP, the CPAP on a bottle, you have to check every 1 or 2 hours to see that the level of the tube has not been changed. Okay, but you measure from the water surface to the tip of the tube. Now, as for your first questions, I already forgot. So if you can repeat.
I can answer the first question.
Okay.
If you remember, Alberta, we talked about the fact that oxygen, when you increase the percent of oxygen you give to the baby will respond quite fast if you either increase or decrease. So you're right that you need to increase the oxygen and as fast as you can until you reach a good saturation. But the other thing is looking to the chest. And if you remember in my lecture, I was talking about, think about what is the disease. A preterm baby might need higher pressures. So it's good to increase the pressure quite fast. Don't stay on the 5 for a long time, for a whole day. Stay there maybe for 30 minutes and then go up on 6 and actually equilibrate. You want to use the minimum pressure and some kind of percent of oxygen, so you still can have where to increase if the baby is deteriorating. So we will want to have 50% oxygen, no more than 50% if possible. And if this is on the expense of higher pressures, it's okay. But as soon that the saturations got better, then you slowly start to wean. And I again call that we look back to the lecture I was giving on the weaning. How do we wean and how fast we wean the pressure and the oxygen concentration. Did I answer your question, Alberta?
Yes, please.
Okay, good. It's very important that what Eilon explained, it's clear. The CPAP is the height of the water that the tube is deep in, and I hope that very soon we will not need these improvised devices, which are dangerous and very difficult to control, and also give 100% oxygen, which is absolutely not correct for preterm babies. So I know that you are using it very often because you treat more and more babies. Okay, Yankele.
There's one more question.
Okay. Well,
before cleaning, there's one question.
Okay. About the
it says when when the room is poorly ventilated. Sorry. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I will read it. How does it affect the oxygen output of the machine when the room is poorly ventilated? So if the machine is, if the orange or yellow light is turned off, then it's okay, and the machine can generate enough oxygen. But The thing is that the machine needs enough air in order to, the oxygen generator needs to have enough air flow. So in order to extract the oxygen and concentrate it. And if there's poor ventilation and not enough air in the room, then it doesn't, it interferes with its work. So what we need to look when we use the machine, if the light is still turned on, then it might be either a technical problem with the generator or that there is not enough airflow in the room.
Yankari, what you're saying is that there is an indicator that shows if there is.
Yeah, I'll show
and
it.
Where is this slide? Can you show us this? Where it is,
Yeah, I'll show it here. This one.
It's very important, and it's, I didn't know even that there is an answer to this question. So thank you.
Yeah, we had this problem when we assembled the machine at first, and then the second that there were the air conditioner was installed in the room, then this problem went away. And
Yankala, can you show again the back of the machine with the
Yankari,
filter?
there is another question there.
yeah, just the back
picture
of the
with
machine.
the filter on the back.
Yeah, here's the filter.
More, this one. This is important. This filter here, you will talk about cleaning it, but this has to be 30 centimeters from the wall. The air cannot enter if it's too close to the wall and it's just not clean and cold enough. So this is where the air enters the machine. Okay, there is 2 more questions. Okay. Sometimes the light doesn't go off. Can you still connect the prongs, please, or it has to go off all the time? So if the light is on, can it be connected to the baby?
As far as I know, then not. I mean, if the light is still on, then it means that there is not enough oxygen. I mean, the machine doesn't provide enough oxygen. I mean, it doesn't provide oxygen properly. So you're not supposed to connect the baby if the machine goes on or the annoying noise is on.
Okay, so let's go on with the cleaning.
Okay, cleaning. Okay. Okay, so it's a few steps, very simple but very important in order to prevent infection and in order to maintain the proper work of the CPAP, as I said before, and Edna pointed it out from Kumasi South that sometimes that we need to keep the tubes dry and that has no water residue inside because it can block the airway. Okay, first we use, okay, when we talk about water, we use either boiled water or distilled water, but boiled water that have been cooled down is more appropriate for the cleaning because it's less expensive. First, we use soap and water to clean the parts. After that, we rinse it with water. And we want to soak it for 20 minutes in a 0.5% chlorine solution. After this 20 minutes have gone by, we rinse it once more with boiled water that have been cooled down, and we let it dry And I want to emphasize that because from what I heard, that this can be a problem in some of the units, that you need to really take good care of the drying part and check the tubes before before storing it in a clean and dry container, in order for the next baby to receive clean and dry tubes. So just give it as much time as it is needed to dry. And of course, we need to clean. We need to do it after every use. I mean, when we have one patient and we finished the use of the CPAP for him, then we clean the parts and wait for the next patient. And you're supposed to have an extra set of equipment in order to use whenever, so you don't need to reuse this. I mean, so that you can use it continuously and don't need to use the same set of equipment. Of course, you need to, if there are any there is visible dirt, then before going through this process, you also need to remove it from every part of the system. Any questions about cleaning? Because it's simple but important.
Okay, we have questions online. Okay, there was a question, what is HLD? And the answer is high level disinfection, sorry. And how many days is it okay to have a prawns on a baby without doing the cleaning procedure? Does it have to be changed once in a while?
I don't have the answer to that question. Maybe you have.
Alberta, can you tell us what is your practice when a baby is put on a CPAP and he has his own nasal prawns? Will you change it? Or if the baby is on CPAP for 10 days, it will be the same device?
Hello.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't change it unless it's blocked by mucus. Then we change it.
Okay. I think that we will have to give you answers about the recommendation. I know that there is a problem about the availability of the prawns. And when it has, of course, between two patients, it has to do the high disinfection process and do the chlorine 0.5% and then rinse in the water and make it dry. This is what you do in between patients. That's very, very important. We'll talk about it. The cross-infection is one of the more dangerous disease in our units. Okay, more questions about this? Okay, you can go on now.
Okay, for the last part, after we clean the CPAP machine properly and we maintain the proper use of it and provide it to the patient, then we receive a happy baby that is breathing properly. And now I'd like to just I will say a few words about the situation in Kumasi South as I know it, and if somebody from the unit would like to add a few words, then I would be really happy. And after that, I'd be happy that Alberta will say a few words about what is going on in Suntreso, the challenges that that you face in the unit. So from what I heard in Kumasi South, there's of two Babel CPAP machines, or the Diamedica CPAP machines. There's only one that is working now, and one is has some technical problem that is not 100% clear. The light doesn't go off.
Don't
And sorry.
come and let me help you.
Yeah.
You can continue. I
So-
think it was an accidental
Okay.
unmute.
Accident, okay, but you can help me. So, when I asked Edna if they try and maybe take it off to a different room and see if it's a problem with the ventilation, she said it still didn't work, and they don't know what's the problem now. They have one torn tube, as you can see here, that they have to fix it with the tape. And she asked me to emphasize about the drying and draining the fluids from the tubes, because apparently there have been some situations that there's excess water, and that blocks the prawns, and that's difficult for it. I mean, that makes the machine not working properly. So maybe now either we go to Alberta, or if somebody from Kumasi South would like to add a few words about the challenges that you face there in the unit from the daily use. I think it's a good time for that.
Dr. Yankele, there was a question earlier that I think we skipped. Could you answer it now? Hassan had asked about the ventilation in the machine as a follow-up. He was asking if once the machine has extracted the oxygen, what happens to the residue? Is that released into the room air? And does that affect the other babies who are not on CPAP?
No, it doesn't affect the other babies on CPAP. Yeah, I guess it's released, but I'm not sure exactly how. I don't have a good answer to that. But actually, I can check and come back to you.
We have the other questions here, but the issue of problems with the CPAP machines, I think that they should be dealt with probably straight with the manufacturer in England, and I don't know. Hopefully, you have connection with them, and if not, we have to renew these connections. It's very difficult to understand from the question of what you asked, but it's it shouldn't be leaking. We should see what is the problem there, and you should directly talk with the people in England about it. It's in Kumasi South, the problem with the machine. Oh, this is from Peso.
Yes, I understood also that the CPAP bottle is broken probably. And on the side of the machine, they have spare parts, and probably they are using it very, very intensely, and 99% that the problem is leaking somewhere. And if you plaster it, it's okay, but the plaster, it's very difficult to clean. And then a new hole can appear somewhere. And how can you actually examine that there are other small places that it's leakage? So we need extra pipes and check that there is no leakage. And we will discuss it offline to see how we reach the manufacturer in England, and that's not expensive spare parts that should be.
Agi, Ashura has a direct connection with the manufacturer in England.
Yeah, I know
Ashura, you are here,
yeah.
and I think okay, and if you have the engineer in Kumasi South that can help in Sanpreso or whatever, if the CPAP is not, if there are no bubbles, the CPAP is not working. It should be very clear. If there are no bubbles, the CPAP is not working. So you have.
Yeah, that's what we said. You have to check for bubbles before putting it to the patient.
Ashura,
Okay.
can you comment
Can we
on
please-
this problem?
Yeah, I don't know, maybe we could discuss among us after the session.
Okay, I
Yeah,
agree.
thank you.
Okay.
And I think
Okay, so
I spoke with the, I don't know if you say that it's not there, but there's some more challenges that Alberta was talking about, that we spoke about. If you want to, or if you want to do it offline.
Yeah, I'll do it. I'll do it. Hello.
yes.
Yeah, so some of the challenges we face at Sontreso is that the humidifier is connected to the concentrator by a screw, and the screw is now loose. So whenever you connect the humidifier to the concentrator, it doesn't get the attachment, so there is no bubbling in the system. So what we do is that we support the humidifier with something, sometimes a plastic or paper, anything that will hold the humidifier to the concentrator. And when we do that, it bubbles. But the disadvantage is that the area which we have used the paper or plastic to cover is a portion where heat is supposed to emit from the machine. So it's like we are trapping heat in the machine, and that causes the machine to overheat. So that is one problem we encounter. And the second one is, unfortunately, we have broken our PEEP bottle. We were drying it and it just fell from the area where we were drying and it broke. We fixed it, but it seems it wasn't well done. So now when we put the machine on, the PEEP bottle leaks and we are not able to get the bubbling from the PEEP bottle. And then sometimes too, when the machine is in session, we realize that the oxygen indicator will just come on. And then from this workshop presentation, I'm now learning that it indicates that there is not enough aeration in the room. Because when it does that, then I'm confused. What is happening? Is the room stuffy? Is the machine, what's happening to the machine? So sometimes the yellow indicator comes on when the baby is on the machine. And then also sometimes when a baby is on a machine for some time, maybe 2 or 3 days, you realize that at a point the machine will just go off. Then we put it off and on and it works again. So we asked the engineer from the hospital and he said it's as a result of overheating. So probably because we are covering the heat area with that thing we support the humidifier with, that is what is causing the problem. So these are some of the challenges we face with using the CPAP.
Okay, as we know, only nurses will find the solution to all the problems on the bedside. And I definitely think that some of the connections are overused and you have to change them, the bottle or the tubes, and we'll have to find a way to replace them. I wonder if in CAT they don't have spare thing, that they had so many machines not functioning. Maybe a combination of some good parts there. I'm not sure.
Yeah, so I discussed with Nana because I know 7 of their CPAPs are not working concerning the PEEP bottle, but not knowing they are now using the PEEP bottle for improvised CPAP. So they are not able to give it to us.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay, okay. I don't think we can solve it right now, and we'll
I
see
think
how we.
I just wrote in our group, we need to meet and to see if we need spare parts, how we can get spare parts. We need to get in direct contact with the people of in England that are will be able to give us support to repair these machines. You have one machine out of 3 that is working, and it's a problem. It's a problem. If there are no bubbles, the machine are not working. So we will have to see how we can fix this issue.
Okay, at Kumasi South, both of the machines are working?
This is what Gloria wrote, that one is working and one has continuously the light is on continuously, which means that something is wrong with it. So Agi, I think
Yes, we move on.
we should move on and we see
Yes.
what we can do later.
Okay. Thank you, Yankele. It was very clear presentation and revised all the technical issues and cleanings. Thank you so much. And we go